Welcome to EKU Then and Now. I'm your host, Paul Blanchard, and I spent 35 years at Eastern as a faculty member and administrator. The focus of this program is on prominent EKU faculty, staff, and alumni who've had a meaningful involvement at Eastern during its more than 100 years of history. They will comment on what EKU has been like during its storied past, how it has changed, and what we might expect its future to hold. Our guest this week is Jeanette Crockett, a longtime EKU Student Affairs Administrator. Jeanette grew up in Mount Sterling, Kentucky, and came to EKU in the late 1950s and earned undergraduate and master's degrees here. She began work at EKU as Director of Women's Housing in 1966. After 8 years in this position, she served as EKU's Dean of Women for 10 years. In 1984, she became Dean of Student Life, a position she held until she retired in 2000, ending an extraordinary EKU tenure of 34 years. In addition to her long and productive career at Eastern, Jeanette has been very active in community organizations in Richmond, including the Richmond Chamber of Commerce, the Patty A. Clay Hospital Auxiliary, and the Richmond Area Arts Council, among many others. Jeanette, we appreciate you joining us this month on EKU Then and Now.
Thank you so much.
Let me ask you first about how you ended up at EKU as an undergraduate in 1959. Were you the first in your family to go to college?
I was the first to go, first to graduate. I came to Eastern, and I didn't realize that it was unusual, but the superintendent of schools brought me to Eastern. And she just announced one day that I was to plan the next day, and my mother was to go with us. She didn't say your parents. She said your mother is to go with you. And
she didn't ask you if it was convenient?
No. She didn't even ask me if I was interested in going to Eastern. It was, we're going over to Eastern and look around. Her name was Neil Guy McNamara, and she had a way of just kind of taking care of things like that. And so we didn't think it was too strange because it was very early in the year and I could have made other arrangements if I'd wanted to. But Miss Nail, as she was called, she just walked us into the administration building. We turned right. When we went in the front door, we went in the president's office, and she just announced to Lois Colley, I believe at the time, that her name was Neil Guy McNamara, and she was here with prospective student, and they'd like to see President O'Donnell. That was the way that happened. So, and of course from that he was very gracious and sent us to some other places where we might be interested. So that's how I got to Eastern. It seemed to be a nice fit at the time.
Where else did they take you, or do you remember that?
We did go at that particular time. I remember we went into a residence hall, and growing up with no sisters, that was just so much fun. That just sounded to be wonderful to me that I was going to live. And I, quote, got to live with one or two roommates. I mean, I thought that was just fun. You were going to have two roommates instead of one roommate. Little did I know. But we went to many of the academic buildings and just kind of, we spent the whole afternoon there just kind of looking and talking and going around. And I recall that Dr. O'Donnell did tell us during this tour, he went on the tour with us.
Oh, he did?
Yes, he went. He left his office and went on the tours. That is so strange.
Oh,
I mean, it just wouldn't happen. And he told us that the King Johnson building was the last building that would be built at EKU. And I've thought of that many times and kind of chuckled. But it was very small. Keith Hall was, I think, maybe the newest residence hall. The library was where the university building is now, or close by where it is now. The university building, of course, was there, as has always been. Everything seemed to be centered in that nucleus.
Sure, yeah.
There was not any very extraneous marks at all.
You had McCreary and Miller and Beckham.
Miller, Beckham, McCreary.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What about the people that you remember from those days? Any vivid memories of them?
Well, of course, I remember Mary King Burrier. She was a wonderful, wonderful teacher, and I have so many stories of Mary King Burrier. And
now she was in.
I suppose she was head of the department, home economics.
Home economics, yeah. And the building now is named after her.
Right, right. So I do remember her, and at that time there were only 4 teachers in that area, so it was very easy to remember them, and they remained the same 4. Willie Moss.
Willie Moss.
Willie Moss was very active in that department, and she was kind of the person that went outside of that department. I now know that she was the committee person. You know, she was assigned to a lot of committees, but she was a wonderful, wonderful teacher and just a real good mentor. She was very interested in all of us.
What about some other professors outside of home economics?
Yes, I do remember Dr. LaFuse. Do you remember him in the science department? I had him in class. I had him in lab. You had a science teacher or biology teacher, but you also had a lab instructor. And I'm not so sure that those people with the doctorate degrees now have lab duties. No, but at that time that they did. Meredith Cox was my chemistry teacher. He was flamboyant, I guess is the word that I would use for him. He was a good teacher. He was interested in a lot of students, but he had his own style. For instance, the chemistry book was called the Bible. And, you know, he would say to me, I was Miss Webb at the time, "Oh, Miss Webb, have you read the good book? Have you read the good book?" And
talking about the biology today.
Talking about the chemistry book, you know, have you read the good book? And so you knew that you needed to answer the questions right, or you'd be yeah. I remember Dr. Engel. I did not ever have Dr. Engel in class. I'm talking about
Fred Engel's father.
Yeah. Fred's father.
And was his name Fred too?
Yes.
Okay.
Fred and Alan. And so I did not have him in class, but I do remember him being on campus. I had, during my freshman year, I had a wonderful teacher by the name of Daisy French. And Daisy was my social studies teacher.
Oh, okay.
And I believe that maybe everyone on the faculty had to teach social studies once, or you had to do an orientation class or something. You know how that is when funds are tight and, you know, you're expanding.
It's a whole part of the interdisciplinary emphasis that they... Did you have Clyde Lewis for?
I did not have Dr. Lewis for anything. I do remember him, but I remember Daisy because she was such a good teacher.